The dark silence of space was broken by a single human ship drifting near the border of the Orion expanse. Inside the ship, Captain Ethan Cross watched the stars fade into endless black. His ship was damaged, engines weak, but his eyes were full of something the universe rarely saw anymore: defiance. The human race was almost gone, crushed under the rule of the Zelrath Empire, a race of godlike aliens who ruled hundreds of galaxies with a single command. For 1,000 years, no one had dared to resist them. But Ethan was not like anyone else. He had lost everything and had nothing left to fear: his ship. The Argus 9 carried something forbidden, a small data core stolen from the Zelrath Citadel. Inside, it was a secret the aliens had killed billions to hide. Ethan didn't know the full truth yet, but he knew it was powerful enough to make the Zelrath hunt him across the stars. His mission was simple but close to impossible: reach the last hidden human colony and deliver the core before the Empire found him. A voice echoed through the ship's damaged comm system. "Captain, multiple energy signatures approaching fast." It was Aura, the ship's AI, her calm voice hiding a trace of worry. Ethan turned to the display. 3 Zelrath hunters were closing in, their silver holes glowing like stars themselves. He took a deep breath. "We can't outrun them," he said. "But maybe we can outsmart them. Power down most of the ship's systems, making it look like a drifting wreck." The hunters slowed down, scanning the area. From the window, Ethan could see their ships beautiful, terrifying, almost alive. The Zelrath built their ships using living metal that pulsed with strange energy. They believed themselves to be divine beings, and to most of the galaxy, they were. The hunters began to move past him. For a moment, Ethan thought it might work. But then, a deep, vibrating voice filled the ship. It came not from the comms, but inside his mind. "Human, you cannot hide." The voice was cold and vast, like space itself. It belonged to a Zelratho overseer, one of their godlike leaders who could communicate across light years. Ethan gritted his teeth as pain shot through his head. "I don't take orders from ghosts," he whispered. The ship's sensors flashed red. One of the hunters was charging a plasma beam. Ethan acted fast. He powered up the thrusters and fired a flare decoy straight into the darkness. The flare exploded with a bright flash, and the plasma beam missed, hitting an asteroid instead. The shockwave sent the Argus 9 spinning, alarms screaming. Ethan fought the controls, his hands shaking, sweat dripping down his face. Aura's voice broke through the chaos. "We can jump to sublight warp, but the drive is unstable." Ethan looked at the burning engine indicators. "Do it," he said. "It's better than dying here." The ship's engines roared, and the stars stretched into long streaks of light. The hunters followed, their own drives lighting up behind him. Inside the warp tunnel, everything was distorted. Time bent. And Ethan felt memories flicker, Earth burning, the sister screaming, the Zelrath ships covering the sky like gods of death. He clenched his jaw and focused on the mission. He had to protect the core. Humanity's last hope was inside that small device. Suddenly, the warp drive screamed and shut down. The Argus 9 was thrown out of the tunnel, crashing into a quiet system filled with red dust and dying stars. The ship's hull was cracked, lights flickering. Ethan coughed, trying to stay conscious. "Aura, report." The AI's voice was faint. "We made it out, but the drive is gone. Power at 30%. And, Captain, one of the hunters followed us." Sathan turned toward the viewport. A massive Zelrath ship emerged from the shadow of a red planet. Its glowing eyes scanned the darkness, searching for him. For a moment, he thought it was over. Then he looked at the data core in his hand, its blue light pulsing softly like a heartbeat. He whispered to himself, "They think they're gods. But gods can bleed." The alien ship's light swept over him, and the voice returned deeper and colder than before. "You are nothing human. You cannot defy the will of eternity." Ethan smiled faintly. "Watch me." The Argus 9 engines flared one last time as he dove toward the red planet, vanishing into the storm. The hunter followed close behind, its divine fire lighting up the void. and somewhere deep inside that dying world, the truth waited, a truth powerful enough to challenge gods. The red planet was silent, except for the endless wind that carried dust across its dead. Ethan's ship lay half buried in crimson sand, smoke rising from its broken hull. He stumbled out, his oxygen mask cracked, but still working. Every step was heavy. The storm around him made it hard to see more than a few meters ahead. Behind him, lightning flashed in the dark red sky, showing the shadow of the Zelrath hunter descending slowly, scanning the surface. Aura's voice came through the broken helmet speaker, soft but urgent. "Captain, the hunter has locked onto our last location. We must move." Ethan nodded, clutching the data core to his chest. "We can't stay here. Find me a cave or structure nearby." As the AI scanned through what sensors still worked. "There's a signal 2 kilometers east. It may be ruins." Ethan began walking through the storm. The wind screamed like a living thing, and the ground shook as the alien ship landed somewhere behind him. He didn't look back. He knew what would happen if they caught him. The Zelrath didn't just kill, they erased memories, turned bodies to dust, and removed every trace that a person ever existed. That was their version of godly judgment. After an hour of walking through choking dust, Ethan reached a ridge and froze. Below him was something impossible. Massive stone structures, half buried in sand, glowing faintly with blue symbols. They were ancient, older than any known race. Even the Zelrath feared places like this. He climbed down and entered one of the open halls. The walls pulsed faintly with light as he passed, reacting to his presence. "Aura," he whispered, "you seeing this?" "Yes," the AI replied. "This architecture matches no known record. It predates the Zelrath Empire." Ethan ran his hand along the symbols. The glowing patterns shifted slightly, and a doorway opened deeper into the ruins. He hesitated. Maybe this planet wasn't so dead after all. As he stepped inside, the storm faded into silence. The air felt thick and warm. In the center of the chamber stood a tall crystal pillar, pulsing with the same blue light as the core he carried. When he held the data core closer, both lights began to sync and pulse together like 2 hearts beating as one. Suddenly, his helmet speakers screamed with interference, and a URA's voice broke apart. "Captain, warning. Unknown signal. Approaching fast, then silence." Ethan turned sharply. A faint hum filled the air. The walls rippled as if alive, and then a figure appeared, tall, silver-skinned, eyes like burning suns. It wasn't a physical being, but a projection, something ancient and powerful. "Who dares awaken this place?" the voice asked, deep and echoing. Ethan tightened his grip on his blaster. "Name's Ethan Cross. I'm just trying to stay alive." The being looked at him, curious. "Human, you carry the seed of rebellion." It looked toward the core. "That device belongs to us." Ethan frowned. "Us? You mean you're not Zelrath?" The being's expression changed. "The Zelrath stole from us. They call themselves gods, but they are thieves who learn to use our creation. That core contains part of their stolen divinity." Ethan's mind raced. The Zelrath's power came from something they didn't create, something they stole. "So this," he said, holding up the core, "can hurt them?" The being's eyes flared. "It can destroy their link to the source. But it needs a host, someone who can carry the energy without losing their mind." Ethan took a step back. "You mean me?" The figure nodded slowly. "You defied them. You survived what none could. You are already chosen." Before Ethan could respond, a massive explosion shook the ruins. The roof cracked open as the Zelrath hunter descended, its plasma cannons glowing. The being's light flickered. "They are here. The choice is now or never." Ethan looked at the core, then at the glowing pillar. His heart pounded. "If I do this, what happens to me?" "You will no longer be only human." He hesitated for a second, then placed the core against the pillar. The lights exploded around him. Energy surged through his body, and pain tore through every cell. He screamed as his veins glowed blue, and the world around him shattered into light. Outside, Zelroth's ship fired, blasting the ruins apart. For a moment, it looked like everything was gone. Then, from the dust, a shockwave erupted, throwing the massive alien ship backward as the storm cleared. A single figure stood among the ruins, Ethan Cross, his eyes glowing like stars. He looked up at the sky where the hunter floated, broken but alive, and said softly, "I told you. Gods can bleed." The ship's sensors locked onto him again, but something was different now. Ethan didn't run. He raised his hand and the air shimmered around him. For the first time in 1,000 years, humans struck back at a god. The red sky above the ruins was filled with fire and light. The Zelroth hunter floated like a wounded god, its silver armor cracked and glowing from within. Ethan stood below, surrounded by floating dust and blue energy that still pulsed through his veins. He could feel everything: the heat, the air, even the vibrations in the sand. The power that had entered him was alive, whispering, pushing him to move, to fight, to become something greater than human. The hunter fired another plasma beam. Ethan didn't dodge. He raised his hand, and a wave of blue energy burst from his palm, cutting through the beam like water through smoke. The shock tore the sky apart, and the alien ship was thrown back again. Inside the ship, Zelroth voices spoke in their strange divine tongue. "The human wields the source," one hissed. "Impossible. Terminate him before he awakens the rest." The hunter charged again, but Ethan's mind was already connected to something deeper. He saw flashes, memories that were not his own. Ancient wars, stars dying, and beings of light creating the first Zelroth. The voice from the ruins whispered in his head. They feared mortals because mortals can change. Gods cannot. Ethan clenched his fists, focusing on the image of his sister's face, the memory of Earth burning. "This ends now," he said, and leaped. The energy lifted him into the air. For a moment he was weightless, like he had become part of the storm itself. He struck the hunter's hull with a blast of pure force, breaking through the living metal. The explosion echoed across the valley, and the massive ship began to fall. Ethan landed on the sand, breathing heavily. The glow around him dimmed, flickering like a dying flame. Aura's voice returned, weak but steady. "Captain, are you still alive?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Barely. But I think I just punched a god in the face." The AI processed for a moment. "Your body temperature is rising rapidly. The energy inside you is unstable. If you continue to use it without control, it will consume you." Ethan sat down, feeling the ground tremble as the hunter crashed in the distance. "Then we need to learn how to control it. Fast." He stood again and looked toward the wreckage. The Zelroth ship was burning, but movement flickered inside the smoke. The aliens were not finished. Ethan began walking toward it. His steps left glowing marks in the sand. When he reached the wreck, he saw the remains of the Zelroth pilot. It was tall, armored, and had eyes that shone like molten silver. Even dying, it looked proud. Ethan aimed his blaster, but the alien spoke first. "You. Touch the source," it rasped. "It will destroy you as it destroyed us." Ethan lowered his weapon slightly. "Then maybe it's time someone used it differently." The alien tilted its head, studying him. "You think you can fight gods?" Ethan leaned closer. "I don't need to fight all of them. Just enough to make them bleed." "Aye." The alien laughed weakly. "They will come for you. Not one, not 100, but the whole Dominion. You are already dead." Ethan stepped back, watching the alien's light fade. "Then I'll make sure I die fighting." Ra's voice cut in. "Captain, a transmission is being sent from the wreck. They're alerting the nearest fleet." Ethan looked up at the sky, where faint stars glowed through the storm. "Then we need to leave this planet before they arrive." He searched through the wreckage and found a half-broken Zelroth skimmer, small enough to fly, but alien in design. He placed his hand on its surface, and the living metal reacted, reshaping under his touch. The energy in his body connected to it, sinking like it had always belonged to him. Aura sounded surprised. "Captain, you are interfacing with Zelroth technology." "That shouldn't be possible," Ethan smiled. Guess I'm not fully human anymore. The skimmer lifted off, glowing blue where his hands touched the controls. He rose above the ruined planet, leaving behind the burning wreck. The stars stretched before him, silent witnesses to a new kind of war. As the skimmer broke through the upper atmosphere, Aura spoke again. Captain, destination? Ethan looked at the data core now fused into his chest. Its blue light steady. The hidden colony? They need to see what we're up against. And maybe for the first time they need to see that we can fight back. Far behind, in the deep shadows of space, hundreds of Zelrath ships began to move. Their godlike commanders had seen what happened. One human had done the impossible. He had struck one of their own and lived. The overseer who first spoke to him in his mind now whispered to his council. The human has touched the forbidden power. He must be erased before others follow. As the stars passed around him, Ethan stared ahead with quiet resolve. He didn't know if he would survive what came next. But for the first time in 1,000 years, hope had a face, and it was human. The small alien skimmer drifted through the black sea of space, its silver hull glowing faintly with blue lines. Ethan sat in the pilot's seat, his hands gripping the strange, living controls. The ship reacted to his touch like it could sense his thoughts. He was still getting used to the power inside him. It was like carrying a storm within his veins. Sometimes it whispered, sometimes it screamed. Aura's voice filled the quiet cabin. Captain, your heart rate is unstable. The source energy inside you continues to expand. If it reaches critical level, your body will not survive. Ethan leaned back, staring at the stars. We'll deal with that later. First, we find the colony. The stars ahead shifted, and a hidden beacon signal appeared on the radar, faint but human. Ethan smiled slightly. There you are. He changed course. The skimmer sped forward, vanishing into the dark. Hours passed. The silence of space was broken only by the soft hum of the alien craft. Ethan tried to rest, but every time he closed his eyes, visions flashed before him. Giant beings made of light, the Zelrath kneeling before them, a star imploding into black fire. Then he heard the same voice that had spoken to him in the ruins. You carry the spark of creation, but creation demands sacrifice. He opened his eyes sharply, breathing fast. Aura, did you hear that? I detected no external signal, Captain. It may be in your mind. He shook his head. Great, now I'm hearing ghosts. Before he could say more, the ship's alarm began to beep. Multiple warp signatures behind us, Aura warned. Ethan looked back and saw 3 Zelrath hunters emerging from warp space. They found us again, he muttered. He pushed the alien controls and the skimmer leapt forward at impossible speed. Blue energy trails followed in its wake. Plasma fire streaked past him, lighting up the darkness. One beam hit the rear thrusters, shaking the cockpit. Aura, damage report. Left thruster offline. Shields at 40%. Ethan's jaw tightened. We're not dying here, he turned the ship sharply. Toward a nearby nebula, a massive cloud of glowing gas and electric storms. If we enter that, their scanners will lose us. Entering the nebula is dangerous, Aura warned. Energy storms could disrupt the source inside you. Ethan smiled grimly. Then let's make it interesting. The skimmer dove into the nebula. Lightning flashed in every direction, purple and blue waves of plasma tearing through the clouds. The alien hunters followed, their hulls glowing like ghosts. The storm struck Ethan's ship again and again, filling the cockpit with flickering light. Sparks danced across the panels. Aura's voice glitched. Warning. Energy overload. Source reaction rising, ... Ethan's vision blurred. The blue glow spread from his chest into his arms. He felt his heartbeat sync with the ship. The skimmer's controls melted into light. Suddenly he was part of it, his mind and the alien craft moving as one. The hunters fired again. But this time Ethan didn't dodge. He guided the storm itself. Lightning arced from the clouds and struck the hunters, breaking through their shields. 2 of them exploded instantly. The third tried to escape, but Ethan raised his hand, and the storm obeyed. A bolt of pure blue energy hit the last ship, tearing it apart. Then silence. The nebula calmed. The light faded. Ethan fell back in his seat, breathing hard, smoke rising from his skin. Aura's voice returned, faint but clear. "Captain, all enemy signatures destroyed. But your vitals are critical. You need medical attention." Ethan looked down. The glow in his veins was fading, but his body trembled with exhaustion. "We're fine," he whispered. "Just get me to the colony." The nebula cleared, and a small moon appeared ahead. Hidden beneath its surface was the last human refuge, the Haven colony. For centuries, it had stayed invisible from Zelraw's eyes. Now, for the first time, one of their own ships approached its gates. Aura transmitted an old human code. The colony's defenses powered up, ready to fire. But before they could attack, Ethan sent a message. "This is Captain Ethan Cross of the Argus 9. I bring the key to humanity's survival." There was silence, then a human voice answered. "Ethan Cross. We thought you were dead." "Not yet," he said with a faint smile. The massive gates opened. The alien skimmer descended into the underground hangar. Soldiers and engineers rushed forward, staring at the strange ship glowing with alien light. When Ethan stepped out, they froze. His eyes were glowing faint blue, and his presence felt like a living storm. One soldier whispered, "What happened to you?" Ethan looked around at the last surviving humans and said, "I found something the Zelrath fear, and now we're going to use it." But high above the moon, hidden behind the stars, something vast began to move. A ship larger than mountains, carrying the mark of the Zelrath overseers, had already found them. And this time, they weren't sending hunters. They were sending gods. The underground hangar of Haven. Colony shook as Ethan stepped out of the alien skimmer. Dust fell from the ceiling, and lights flickered above. People stared at him, a man who looked half human, half something else. His veins glowed faint blue beneath his skin, and his eyes carried a strange, calm power. He could feel their fear, their curiosity, their fragile hope. Commander Rhea Lawson, leader of the colony, pushed through the crowd. Her uniform was old but clean, her eyes sharp and tired. She stopped in front of Ethan. "You should be dead, Captain Cross. The Zelrath wiped out everyone who stood against them." Ethan smiled weakly. "Guess I didn't get the message." She looked at the alien ship behind him. "You came here in that. You brought them to us, didn't you?" Before Ethan could reply, the ground trembled again. The entire colony shook, alarm screaming. Aura's voice came through the intercom. "Warning. Massive object entering the system. It's not a hunter class. It's an overseer vessel." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The overseers were not soldiers. They were living gods. Rhea turned to Ethan. "You led them here." Ethan's voice hardened. "No, they were coming anyway. I just made them hurry." He walked past her to the control room. The large display showed a dark shape covering the stars above the moon, the overseer's ship. It was so huge that it looked like a floating continent of metal and light. The humans watched in silence as it charged its main weapon, a beam strong enough to crack planets. Aura's voice spoke again. "Captain, their energy output is beyond any known measurement. A single shot will destroy the colony." Rhea turned to Ethan, desperate. "Can you stop it? You're the one with this power, right? Do something." Ethan stared at the glowing display, his hands trembling. He could still feel the source inside him, burning like fire. But it was unstable, wild and dangerous. He didn't even know how long his body could hold it. Still, he nodded. "I'll try." He placed his hand on the control console. The screens flickered and then began to glow blue. The energy inside him spread through the metal, linking with the colony's defense systems. A Eurus voice spoke softly. "You are merging with the power grid. If you fail to control it, the entire colony will explode." Ethan closed his eyes. "Then I better not fail." Outside, the overseer ship fired. A blinding beam of energy raced toward the moon. For a second, everyone thought it was the end. But then Ethan raised his hands, and a massive blue shield erupted over the colony. The beam hit the shield, and the entire world shook. The light was unbearable. The sound was like thunder from heaven. But the shield held. People fell to their knees, watching as one human stopped a god's weapon. Rhea looked up in disbelief. He's doing it. But Ethan's body trembled violently. Blood ran from his nose. His eyes glowed brighter and cracks of light spread across his skin. He was burning from the inside out. Aura's voice was urgent. "Captain, your body is collapsing. You can't hold this energy." Ethan gritted his teeth. "I don't need to hold it forever. Just long enough to hit back." He focused all the power into one pulse and sent it outward. The blue shield exploded into a wave of light that ripped through space and struck the Overseer's ship. The alien vessel cracked apart, its divine hull breaking like glass. The explosion filled the sky. Fragments of burning metal rained down over the moon. The humans inside the colony stared at the monitors in silence. The impossible had happened. A human had destroyed an Overseer, but Ethan collapsed. The glow in his eyes faded. His body hit the floor, motionless. Rhea rushed to him. "Get the med team here now." The lights flickered. Aura's voice came through softly. "His vitals are weak, but he's still alive." Rhea looked up at the display, where the wreck of the Overseer's ship floated, still burning. She whispered, "He just changed everything." But in the shadow of that wreck, deeper in space, another signal appeared, a vast fleet of Zelroth ships moving toward the system. They were faster, stronger, and furious. The Overseers had taken notice, and now they were coming for revenge. Ethan lay unconscious, the faint blue glow still pulsing under his skin. Somewhere in his mind he heard the ancient voice again. "The fire within you has only begun to burn. When you rise, the gods will tremble." The war was far from over. Dark silence filled the medical bay. Machines beeped softly beside Ethan's bed. His body was covered in glowing cracks, like light trapped under skin. The room was dim, and the only sound was the slow rhythm of his heartbeat. Commander Rhea stood beside him, her arms crossed, her eyes heavy with both fear and hope. It had been 2 days since the battle. The Overseer's ship was destroyed, but the celebration didn't last long. The Zelroth fleet was coming, hundreds of ships, more powerful than anything humans could face. The colony had only a few hours left before they arrived. A URAS holographic form appeared near the bed. "Commander, his body is repairing itself faster than expected. The source is keeping him alive." Rhea looked at Ethan, "or it's turning him into something else." A faint voice came from the bed. "Maybe both." Ethan opened his eyes slowly. The glow had changed, calmer now, more controlled. He sat up, his breath steady. "How long was I out?" 48 hours, Aura replied. "The Zelroth fleet will reach orbit soon." Ethan swung his legs off the bed. "Then we don't have time." Rhea stepped forward. "You're not going out there alone again. You can't fight an entire fleet." "I'm not going to fight them. I'm going to end them." She frowned. "And how do you plan to do that?" He touched his chest where the data core had once been. Now it was part of him. "The source showed me something. The Zelroth draw their power from a central nexus, a massive energy heart buried inside their capital world. If I can reach it, I can cut them off from it. Without that link, they're just mortals pretending to be gods." Rhea shook her head. "That's suicide." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe, but someone has to try." He turned to Aura. "Can you find me a ship that can make the jump?" The AI paused for a moment. "There's one option. The wreck of the Overseer's vessel still has an active core fragment. If you can reach it, I can merge it with your energy. Together, we can open a path straight to their home system." Rhea stepped in front of him. "If you leave, there's no guarantee you'll come back." Ethan looked at her with calm eyes. "If I don't go, none of us will have a world to come back to." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Then go make them bleed one last time." Moments later, Ethan stood at the edge of the hangar, wearing a dark suit reinforced with alien alloy. His veins pulsed faintly blue under the armor. The humans watched in silence as he entered the same skimmer that had brought him here, now rebuilt and glowing with both human and alien. Aura's voice filled the cockpit. "Coordinates set. Once we begin, there's no return. Ethan looked at the stars ahead. Let's finish this. The ship rose into the sky, breaking through the thin atmosphere of the moon. Behind him, the colony disappeared into the shadows. Ahead, the Zelrath fleet filled the void like an ocean of living fire. The Overseer's wreck floated nearby, still burning from the last battle. Ethan flew straight into it, ignoring the alarms. The ship's living metal wrapped around his skimmer, fusing with it. Energy surged through his body and the craft. For a moment, Ethan could see everything, the fleet, the stars, and the heart of the Zelrath Empire burning like a sun across the galaxy. Aura's voice echoed through the light. "Are you ready, Captain?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Always." The ship vanished into a flash of blue. When he opened his eyes, he was there above the Zelrath's homeworld. The sky below was filled with towers of light and endless temples where alien gods walked. He could feel their presence. Millions of minds turning toward him. A voice filled his head, the same overseer who had once called him nothing. "Human, you defy eternity itself. You will be forgotten." Ethan looked down at the world glowing beneath him. "Then remember this." He closed his eyes and unleashed the source. The blue energy exploded outward, spreading across the planet like a wave of light. The temples cracked, the towers fell, and the divine connection of the Zelrath shattered. One by one, their ships darkened, their power fading. The light consumed everything. In his final moment, Ethan heard Ra's voice softly. "You did it, Captain," he smiled. "No, we did." The explosion expanded across the stars, then faded into silence. Back on the Haven colony, Rhea and the others watched as the Zelrath fleet suddenly stopped moving. Their lights went dark. The threat vanished. Rhea looked up at the sky, her eyes wet. "He did it," she whispered. Aura's voice came over the speakers, gentle and proud. "Captain Ethan Cross. Human, soldier, defier of gods. Mission complete." Somewhere in the quiet of the stars, a faint blue light flickered. Not gone, but waiting. The legend of the man who defied a godlike empire had only just begun.